So welcome again. Now let's start getting into the most important document of your journey. All right. So this is the business plan section where we go about creating a business plan. All right. This will be a practical session over a period of series of certain our rice circles. All right. Until it's perfected. Now a lot of inputs will be given as has been given up till now, and all the earlier lectures and all the inputs and knowledge that you have garnered will go into place over here. Okay. And then once you make your first draft or maybe your second draft, we will start visiting them during the inner circles where we create one more like this. In the process, you might ask your questions in case there are any and start concluding it. But remember this down the entire journey, right? Well, rather up the entire journey, you will be tweaking this as and when you start progressing onto things and you feel things a little differently than it was earlier. Okay. Now, if you are as perfect as you are, then maybe there's no tweaking. It will be like just a perfect document that you want to live with for the next 3 years and run with. But typically, practically what we've seen, because of environmental changes and other changes, there would be certain tweaks, there would be certain changes just to be with times or something that you have kind of created new or have diversified into a few things. So you build on this. Okay. So this is a foundational block from that point of view. Now let's understand what goes, right? So what you see on your screen are about, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 topics. All right. And I will take you through about 4 other documents which will show you the exact template that you need to fill by virtue of what you understand now. Number 2, there will be a Excel sheet or a model which will have some certain budgetary numbers that you will require to fill in based on your digital assets. Then I'll show you some practical outcome. I'll probably show you, how we did for CSM. What is a professional document looking like from both the ends, right? And what I meant by both the ends is the fact that each of them will look like how you present it to like a venture capitalist or your banks or whatever the need is, all right? Or even your other partners, right? And then progress from there. And also as a good best practice, right? If you have the right kind of people around you who are working with you or your partners, your contractors, and some of them are very close, you need to share it with them as well to get their inputs. Okay. So let's go. See the overview, right? So this is basically an executive summary as I call it. An executive summary is like your elevator pitch, right? Talks about in a nutshell in maybe a page, maximum 2 page, maybe actually it's not even 1.5 page. It's supposed to be like 1 page, that you give the overview of the business, talk about key numbers or the ratios, and then go about introducing yourself to the point why you and why are you doing this, so that to meet the greater good and what is a greater good. Okay. Now that overview gives somebody a gist of what they are looking at. Okay. And the numbers and everything from a business plan point of view, right? Now this is more external and more so for you to refer in case you have to periodically look into it. Okay. Number 2, strategy. Now the digital business strategy typically actually any business strategy, all right, will require a vision, a mission, and the purpose. Okay. This very reason gives you to bring about a strategy to achieve that vision and by the virtue of the mission, right? Now, the digital assets that you create, right, and are kind of productized or the service that you want to offer and so on and so forth, these are your ultimate goals, right? So that's what your typical goal is in order to achieve that mission, all right? And in order to have that larger mission in place, you have to have the end goal. The end goal could be like a vision, right? The greatest good, if you will. Now, once you have the current state you are in and you create a future state, then you create a roadmap to get there. Each of those roadmap will have your milestones. That means at every point, at every juncture in time, how much you want to achieve. All right. So number 1 important thing is the goal. Number 2 important thing is the timeline that you want to achieve in. And in the process, what are those milestones, right? That's number 2. Now, the number 3 typically is if you have the timeline, if you have the roadmap, which also encompasses the action plan for your user, right? The typical is you should also look at how this improves your ecosystems or the relationships around you or the partnerships around you, right? That should also be a very important element as part of the business plan. Okay, so 3 goals: your end goal, your roadmap, that means the timeline in which you want to achieve that, and your relationship in the ecosystem. These 3 things will suffice the entire activity that you have to come about, right? In the process, it becomes a strategic move. That means how you strategically plan each point so that you achieve the end goal, all right? And that whole process is called an action plan of achieving that. Clear? So this strategy section will consist of these 3 things. This will also include how your competition, in case there's competition, right? First of all, because you will be doing a research around your systems and so on and so forth once we get into those specific key steps, all right? So once you know the competition, so what is your competitive edge in that sense comes into play. In the virtue of doing that, your end goal, in the timeline you're going to achieve that, and the ecosystem that you're going to create, and the relationships in the ecosystem. Clear? Those 3 things. So that's your action plan out of the strategy that is coming about. Then we go into customer experience, right? So why are you doing all this, right? A, to have a greater benefit of your mission, right? Because you have a larger vision in place. And in the process of doing that, you are now basically enabling certain customers or people who are needing the same thing that you're creating for the world. And once you're doing that, what sort of experience that customer should have from you, right? That is an important element. Now it happens via virtue of doing your customer engagement, your communication elements, or how are you attracting them, by virtue of, remember the funnel we spoke about? One of the activities to create, those webinars, so people, you pass on that message, or you become an evangelist for your product, by virtue of which people get attracted. So that is, and once they get attracted, what they go through. So it should be an easy and simple process of doing that. Something that we call KISS, right? Keep it super simple. So that again, those details and those steps and the principles will come into details in the subsequent steps, in the subsequent rise levels. But for now, these are basics which you should put into place so that you can tweak once your knowledge enhances. Okay. So third was the customer experience. Then we go to sales growth. Now we'll typically see what kind of budgets go into a typical scenario where you're creating digital assets, right? And there are, I don't know whether I mentioned this earlier, but there could be about 75 to 100 different digital assets that can be created. What you pick and choose for the relevant area of your niche, out of the whole larger gamut, really depends on you and your capability of doing that. And once you do that, then you start creating your budgets, right? And when you create a budget, then you have to have some amount of sales so that your budget is met with, and then you start making income and profit. So that becomes your sales overview activity, in which there will be some cost for promotion, there would be some team related activities that you create around you, or the partners that you create, or contractors that you have, and the whole scheme of things that comes about, right? In the process of creating that product and your startup, if you will. So, and then how you enhance your growth. So what is there a cost involved, and so on and so forth. So that comes into play. Most of those elements, as the fill in the blank, will be part of what I'm going to show you. But as it enhances, and as soon as more and more you start automating, right, where you're putting a system in place, this again will get tweaked. One of the key areas will get tweaked is this. Okay, because your goal will increase, your virtue and your other paradigms will increase. Then since the sales is increasing, there would be sometimes there's cost which enhances. Sometimes you want to put in more automation, so you want to be even more freer than your time that you put into play. Okay, so that is the sales growth. Then there is operation automation, right? The very purpose I told you. So this element is more of an operational activity, where how you want to fulfill what you are promising people, right? In the process, what you're giving them, it could be a digital asset 1, digital asset 2, 3, 4, whatever that number is, right? And to do that, what you need to do, that means, is there a service that means which you have to provide? Could be in form of consulting, could be a one-on-one coaching, right? And so on and so forth. It might be live seminars, it could be live webinars, right? Or repeated activities which will take your time. And sometimes you might use marketing agencies externally to do certain activities as a category run, right? Which again would mean certain sort of activities are coming to play. Now all this that I mentioned can be automated completely, where you outsource some things, where your webinars are automated, where your seminars, seminars typically are not automated, because seminars would mean multiple speakers, and this, you can do that, right? Typically, but that comes at a very later stage. Okay, once you have that collection of syndication and so on and so forth. Okay, which is a little futuristic step in case you're starting new. But if you're already a pro and master at your things that you do, right, then even a live seminar is possible by automation, right? And then you leave the system completely to run on its own. So that's a level of operational automation that you put into play. And guys, the future is all about this, right? In fact, once we see more of Web 3.0 and then Industry 5.0 coming to play, the level of operational automation is just brilliant, right? It's going to be just very next level. Okay, so I won't be surprised in next 5 to 7 years, or maybe upper limit could be 10 years, you see a robot doing all this for you, right? You just program the robot to do this. So okay, I'm not thinking thin air. It's already happening as we speak, right? I'm just talking about the masses adopting this situation. Okay, humans then use their brain power only to, as much as possible, automate the robots to do the things that are manual. Okay, so that's operational automation. And then we go to and okay, before I go to growth, the operation automation will be, there's a whole system in place for this, right? We discussed that. It's called a BAP system, right? And there's a whole RFM system that feeds into this and so on and so forth. Okay, so we'll talk about that to the extent, and then you'll realize this more. And of course, once people who rise up to rise 5 level, you'll understand the level of digitalization that happens in play in the larger institutes, right? So that's a very different ball game, and in that sense, you might, in case you go that whole journey till the top, you will be modifying your business plans accordingly. Okay, so please pay enough cognizance to build that foundation right. Now, with that said, the last element will be growth, right? Now, this is one of the stages within Rise where you diversify. Okay, you might have an inorganic growth, you might buy businesses, you might diversify into other areas which can be suggested through, right? Or you might just verticalize in your niche, you become a super vertical, right, of sorts, and so on and so forth. Then based on this, in case you already have something in your mind so well prepared because you know your industry very well, you know your niche very well, and you know everything around you very well, this can be put in at this stage itself. Okay, like for example, since I've been doing my element of digitalization for such a long time, I exactly know at what time I need to go about doing the amalgamations with external parties, right? Which would mean acquiring inorganic growth and so on and so forth. Organically, what we're doing, and for the sake of people who don't understand this, right? Inorganic growth is where you go about, in a very simple term, by an organization which is outside of you, so that you can put in that extra arm to your current business so that you expand very quickly compared to building it on your own. When you start building on your own, it's an organic growth. When you buy something and add it to your system and integrate it, it's called an inorganic system. Clear? So from a simple terms perspective. So we will see the diversification in Rise 5, right? Where we start getting into, spreading the wings around. And then in the process, all this, you buy businesses or you diversify into other areas, activities within your niche, and you become a super vertical guy until you get to the monk level. Okay. So this is those steps. Now these are the key ingredients of a business plan. Okay. I'm going to show you 4 documents. One, I'm going to show you the template that you want to fill up as a challenge as part of these ingredients going into that business plan. So it becomes your business plan for your niche, creating those digital products. Number 2, I will go into the budget of an Excel sheet to show you. It's a template which you will download, and you can fill in your details. That means the numbers that you feel and are working with the right kind of equipment, extra equipment or lesser equipment, and fill up those and change those numbers accordingly so that you get your budgets, part of your operational or other expenditure activities, right? Or a capital expenditure, if you will. Now, with that, we should also look at the clear business plan of a professional laid out plan, like a business plan that I will show you from CSIM perspective, right? The group company of soul. And I will also show you different formats that typically people present for a business plan, typically a PowerPoint or a Word document, right? Word document is used typically for submitting, and people can, keep it with themselves as paper documents. Some of the VCs prefer that, and it's good for you because you can tweak it every time. And PowerPoint is a ready-to-use model which people can on the fly start using and seeing it and so on and so forth, right? They can do that with a document, also a Word document, but Word document has a lengthy process. PowerPoint has a shorter one so that they can go pinpoint it. So you'll see both the models, both the elements, and you can choose and pick what you want. But currently the Word document is a template that is being shared. So that is the one you should be filling up, and then you can derive your PPT from there. Okay. So let's see the first template of a business plan that you will be filling. So this is the business plan template that you will be filling. Okay. You can write the topics and headings the way you want. The table of contents are as follows, which are just described, right? You write an executive summary, which is a short overview, right? The ingredients are there. Now this is a Word document. This is a template from Word document, right? It was good enough. We just tweaked a little bit, all right, and try to put in the elements that we feel it might be suitable at a very beginning level. That means somebody who's a novice, to even a pro, right, who can start looking and modify things, or a master who can adapt this into his own scheme of things. Okay, so this is how this has been laid out. So there's company overview, there is executive summary is the overall document, right? Or when I mentioned, right, if you remember during the overview I mentioned this executive summary is for somebody to read quickly as an elevator pitch, understand what numbers go into play, what is the business about, how are they going to achieve this, and what kind of team comes into existence. So that's executive summary. Then there's company overview, that vision, mission, all those elements come into play. Then the business description, that what is it, what are the kind of products and why that business, and what is the market space and stuff like that. Based on that, market analysis, this will give you competitive edge and why why competition is not close to what it is, and in the larger scheme of things, this is your kind of market capital size, right, that you want to kind of capitalize on. Then you start to put based on that analysis where you best fit in, and so what is your so to speak market pockets that you want to dwell into. Okay. With that said, your operating plan, right? We discussed how you will create that operating plan is like almost like a roadmap that you will create for yourself until the point you reach milestone 1, 2, 3, etc. for your final goal, right? Final goal of sorts. And then during the process, how is your customer experience, how you want to deliver it, and so on and so forth. Then marketing sales plan, right? How you promote using webinars, your sales plan, your virtue of the customer experience that you want to give in the process of doing this. And with all this said, what is kind of systems you're going to use to do this, and so on and so forth, right? So that's the whole sales plan that comes about. And at what milestones that those numbers that you put in will be reached, right? So this is where you put your specific numbers based on the budget and the goals you want to achieve, okay, as a reaction to the action plan. Okay, then the financial plan. Now all this will come together to formulating a financial plan, which will incorporate creating your various elements of sales goals, right, which you adapt from a sales plan. The operating plan, which will consist of what cost, expenditure, capital expenditure, and so on and so forth. Those various heads come into play. And if you don't worry if you don't know this, right, because if the budgets that we show you will incorporate all this, and you can just put it very simply. But people who know, either pro or a master or whoever has gone to that level, will understand I'm talking about, and they can add certain subsequent steps to it, right? So this will kind of fit all the three categories broadly. And then there are some appendices that you can use, right? Which if you can choose to. Right, and these are the ones that are more reminders to you. So for this case, the instructions for getting started, simple instructions, right, or instructions for getting profit and loss projections done, right. Now these are a little extensive. Now if you're not a financial pro, or rather a guy from a finance background, you rather use your CA if you have one, or hire one to create a projection like this, right? Because if your niche is not into finance, unless it is your personal interest to know this, right, which we'll have sessions for, by the way, okay, detailed plans for how a CA would think a plan would go, right, we will go there. But in case you want to and you don't want to go through a grind, you can choose to give it to a CA for projections, right? He'll make a as they call it, a projected balance sheet or a projected profit and loss, and so on and so forth, okay. This is useful when you're raising loans for yourself in case you have to, as a debt, okay. But we are not going that route at this stage. This is more so novice, and maybe up to the 3 steps, 1 to 3, right? Rise 1, rise 2, rise 3. This part of the world, right, will not come into play unless you start diversifying, and then we talk about wealth compounding. That's where the larger game comes into play. Okay, now let's live with what we have. So I'll just run it through quickly. So introduction, executive summary, right? Again, the heads are given. You have to just start putting in those heads, right? Don't, just read this and just put the heads in. What you don't know, remove, right? But the essential elements that have been discussed from Rise 1, don't miss out on those, right? Those have to go here by any virtue means. So from what you need to think is your quick snapshot of one pager, number one. Number two, what is your niche? Number three, what is the equipment you're going to use? Number four, how are you going to promote it? And number five, what sort of goals you have for promoting it. Simple. All right, that's how it works. Then we go from here to business description, and you describe again the niche and the other factors, and those heads are given like pricing and opportunity and stuff like that. Then you go to market analysis. We talked about what sort of market size exists, which is the one you do. You can use SWOT, right, for seeing the weaknesses and opportunities which you might to address, right, where the market requires this. By the very fact that what happened to you, there are many people who require this, so they will benefit from this. So what is that size of sorts, right? And please understand, there's a very detailed research mechanism doing this, which we'll go through I think it's in the part of Rise 3, if I'm not mistaken, or Rise 2. Okay, so it's one of those. Operating plan, marketing plan, and sales plan, ending with a financial plan. Okay, this is a dummy financial plan, right? The ingredients for this will come from here, and I'll take you in a minute. So this is a budget plan. Okay, now the template that you will download, right, consists of these red ones, which you will actually kind of change in case you have to. But these are pretty much it as we stand today. For at least I would say about half a year, or at least 3/4 of a year, right? We are in the last quarter of 2022. Okay, from there on. So with that said, the equipment typically you saw in the beginning, right? You require certain website and things to promote you. So website and other elements, right? What we discussed. There's a cost on a monthly basis, but they charge you annually. All right. So there's an annual cost. If you see column H here, this one. Okay. If you can see my cursor. Now this one then falls into the software bracket, because as I told you, a lot of computing has come in the hands of the end user, right? Which has made this possible. So with other platform that you use on subscription basis, that can go kind of almost horizontal, right? Like to the extent that you want to automate. But the essential ones are these. Okay, so the normal website building software or a platform, the learning management system in case you have to create a courseware, and I think everyone will create a courseware sooner or later, because your niche will have to be understood how it is to be kind of utilized by end users, right? Unless you're coming on all one-to-ones or all demonstrating on a live basis and so on and so forth, right? So that's your kind of predication. But the larger purpose here is that each thing that you create will require some sort of a lecture, a courseware, or training or some sort, right? Either it's free, it's charged, whatever is there. So an LMS comes into existence as typically seen. Then we have the webinars to be held for your promoting and sales activities, community building activity for your like-minded people. Then an email system, very essential for your promotions, funnel system for promotions, tracking them through so that you can follow up at the right times automatically. And then payment gateway, because that's how people pay you for your service or your product or your courseware or whatever you create. And then integrating them to talk to each other so that at any point in time as a bird's eye view what's happening. So these are basic elements. Zapier, the last integration etc. is not used because that comes at a very where you have more automated systems and your systems grow wider, right? Hence that price is not put in, because currently you can do without it. So if you see, there is a cost coming about in dollars, right, based on the country that you're going to utilize in. There's Indian rupees, because that's the cloud that we're focusing on right now. So there is an element of cost, right? And then you break these up on a monthly basis, right? Some of them are annuity based, some of them are monthly based, and that's how this comes into play. So your upfront capex cost, right, as we see here, so to speak, will be roughly about 240,000. Right, 240,000. But if you want to break things, right, all options in the software element of things, almost all of them will come on a monthly price, right? Hence, we've shown a monthly pricing coming to play, which typically could be a little higher if you don't pay upfront for entire annuity. So this is that demarcation cost. Check, recheck, and also be whatever comfortable what software or platform you're comfortable with, you can start using that accordingly. Okay. Now this is the investment zone. To create a capital expenditure and monthly expenditure. This is what it is, and you can choose your activities accordingly. And everything is a formula, so you can see the formula on the top, and then based on that you can decide your things. Clear? So quickly from there, if you understood this, we can jump into revenue. Okay, let's go here, second tab. Okay, now this is where you have to fill the red, again the red highlighted text. These are the ones that will change, rest of them are formulation. So once you change those, others will change automatically. Now these are specifically now this is given as example of courseware, because I said the courseware will be used everywhere. Okay, so once the courseware is used somewhere for requirements, so since the courseware as an example has been put in, because as I told you, right, so this will be used for all sorts of elements of things that are required as part of your digital assets. So if there's a bundle that you're offering as a courseware or a training, and you put typically maybe 3 bundles, or one, course 2, course 3 of sorts, right, which is called as bundle 1, bundle 2, bundle 3 here, or a set of assets that you created which formulate one bucket, if you will, of a particular service of a digital assets, then that's a bundle 1, right? So typically there's a typical charge which is being put in, right? This for argument's sake, it's been put at 5,000, 14,000 and 24,000 for the respective currencies. But this is where the focus, as I told you, for INR. So if you do that, then you have to put your units, right? How many do you anticipate going about selling? Depends on your niche, the requirement, your marketplace, and various other factors. And this will mature over time. Hence the fact that you will have to tweak this once you mature into a system, in case you've not done this earlier. Okay, and then rest of them will be calculated. Now the one on the top, if you see the column I where my cursor is now, that's about those are the kind of after a certain time, that now in this case after 3rd month, there will be an increment of your consumption. That means new people and more people will start buying your products because of maybe viral, your marketing promotions, so on and so forth. And if it is not happening in the 4th month, then something is not right. So you need to do some tweaking there. Okay, but if it does, then there's a typical ratio. It enhances by 20%. So those are typical numbers put in, right? This can change again variably depending on various factors, as I mentioned earlier. So that then after this level of M2, M3, right, you put some numbers. If you see these numbers, right, for month 1 it is 15, 5, 2 for the respective bundles. Then it is in the 2nd month it is 27 and 5, and then 25 and 5 for the first 3 months. Right, now in the 4th month we are saying that 25% plus 20%, then 10% plus 20%, right? Now this is the number which is gets added over here, and then you see the cost. Okay, either you're increasing the number of people or you're increasing the ticket size. So either ways it works in the same way, right? But then you're free to choose and modify the way you feel like. But this is what has been a typical case scenario, right? And at the end of the 1st year, you see a cost, rather you get a number, right, which is your yearly or annual kind of income of sorts, because of virtue of selling these products. Now, okay, there's a number which is coming about, and then year 2, right, there's an enhancement put at 25%, and then followed by the 3rd year at 25% again, right? You can choose, if you think you're going to grow your vertical, you're going to grow many assets, you keep on adding down on the bundle 2, bundle 3, 4, 5, whatever, digital asset 1, digital asset 2, and so on and so forth. And if you think these are going to grow at a faster rate or better rate based on your research and market findings that you do, then you add that 25% can become maybe 30%, maybe 100%. I don't know what that number is, but these are some modest numbers that have been put in. You can choose what you feel like and change it accordingly based on your niche, your vertical, and your sales targets. Okay. Now I'll quickly tell you and show you how a professional business plan Word document looks like, and what a PPT looks like, when it's presented to somebody. But I hope now you're clear. The budget activity and the business plan that was shown was in a Word document, which you have to start filling up, right? It's part of a challenge as well. And filling up this kind of a budget sheet so that you know what kind of cost comes in at what point, right? So for which what kind of sales you need to bring about and what you need to do more beyond that. Okay. Now with that said, I will quickly take you to the Word document related business plan. So this is a business plan that we had created when we started off, many years ago. So you see there's an executive summary, there's a business description, industry, market size. Now we had to go overboard because we were targeting from the US a particular country, right? So that's why we went deeper with Canada in this case. We went into strategies of marketing strategies and how we're going to use and to what extent. And this is very corporate world of sorts, right? So everything was detailed, and for that country what sort of codes of operation work. So Canada works in a particular way, so you have to put very specific bands of salaries because that's governed by the central government and so on and so forth. So those are details that have been put in with an organization chart and the financial plans and so on and so forth, right? So this is a very long business plan, but the purpose was multifold, right? It's not only one-fold, but the multifold, right? The banks, the government, and everybody else. So if you see, it was very well laid out and had the right ingredients from a marketing. There was a whole clear sales plan, strategy plan, the whole 9 yards of how it's going to do, why, at what point we're going to jump where, describing it, where we play a part, where Canada, that particular country stands, right? And I'm running this through only because, it'll take enough time for somebody to go through. Then we're writing why specific countries and why specific states within that country is being chosen and so on and so forth, right? So that's the kind of level if you really want to professionally do this, right? Then we mentioned, what is that targeted, specific area and the sector we are targeting. And so to speak, what is our addressable market, as they call it, right? Which we are targeting, okay? So with that said, we go detail. So this gives you an idea of what goes into this. Okay. Now let's get into. Give me a minute. Okay. So I'll take you to how the financial plans were put in. There's a website detail, of course. I am going down, and then you see now that there is also now a business. Yes, these are details of the plans and expenses that are put in. Right. There's a whole organization chart and how the financials then work out and pan out, right? Break-even analysis, sales forecast, profit and loss, and all that. So these are professionally done and done in a particular way so that it goes and addresses the right people that we're targeting, okay? So that's what it is. Clear? With that, let's see how a PPT looks like on a professional front. Okay, so this is how a PPT, which is professionally done and to be presented, is being given through and shown as the way it is being shown right now. Okay. So this again includes certain very key specific inputs, and because the larger goal here is financial inputs and what does it do typically, right? So that's how it's been done and managed through. Okay. And all these details, of course, if you go to our website, you'll come to know, right? The csminc.com. And with that said, this you get a little, a little view on how professionally things are done and to what extent it can go to. Okay. So hence the research is very important for whatever you do typically, because if that is not done to the extent that it's supposed to, it results into half-baked of sorts. But if you do a thorough job, your niche is perfect, you know financially what is required, which will then help you understand the market environments, and hence you will create the right kind of milestones and hence the roadmap, right? So that research, if you put enough time into, you get a perfect outcome, right? Then all these things are an adversary to that, to just in case you're going about, diversifying to the extent that you want to, or raising money, or or getting partners, or showing to contractors what you're intending to do, and so that they participate with you, and and then the whole syndication activities, and various larger purposes that come to play. So with that, we come back to the overview slide of what needs to go into the business plan. So use your templates and your budget plans, work on it a little bit based on the research that you've done, and you finalize and formulate your details true to the extent they should be. And then you will have respective questions that you might want to ask during our RISE circles and inner circles, wherever you're invited. And then we can go deeper into it to come to a point of finalization. Okay, with that, we'll jump to the next one, where we talk about specifics onto the precautions that entrepreneurs should take of sorts, and the kind of niches and micro niches, how they can be come into existence by validation process. Okay, I'll see you there in a minute. Bye.